Good morning, Dr. Wu here, and I'm about to take a survey on relationship of breakfast and academic performance in KWC students. 10 to 15 minutes sounds like a long time. That's a huge commitment. Let's see if I can speed run things. How many times a week do you eat breakfast? If that doesn't make sense, couldn't you eat breakfast 7 days a week? So there's something going on with every day. Maybe you merely need to get rid of this 5. Again, there are 7 days in a week. And breakfast should be, let's say, the first meal of the day, or maybe just make it the first meal before 11:30. Okay, so breakfast is the first meal of the day before 11:30. If your first meal of the day occurs after 11:30, you don't eat breakfast. I think that's a pretty clear-cut definition. So maybe because you have this definition, you want to say 9 to 11:30. But it's kind of weird, right? Because you have like before 7, and then you have hour intervals, and then you have like a 2.5-hour interval. I mean, you might want to provide broader intervals, because this can be like a several hour interval. This is a several hour interval. So maybe you want to create even intervals. Food and beverage. Only beverage? So a meal means it can be either food or beverage. But what if I just have water? What if I have a water breakfast? So there's something going on with your definition. Is water breakfast? Because water is a beverage. Which of the following food categories do you usually eat? And you can select more than one. But aren't breads... Well, these are not examples of breads. They're examples of toppings. So you might want to remove that. Where do you get your breakfast from? So maybe you should be able to select more than one, because sometimes I get coffee from 7-Eleven on Mondays, and I also bring breakfast from home. So I get the beverage from 7-Eleven, and I bring the food from home. Yet, isn't a fast food restaurant like a grab and go? Like, you can order online at McDonald's, and then you go to the McDonald's and you pick up the food. So it's not that clear, the difference between Starbucks and McDonald's, at least in my mind. How long does it take for you to finish breakfast? What if the time varies, right? So you're assuming that people eat breakfast at a constant time, day in and day out, or at a constant rate. I don't know. Again, this is one of those questions where, like, it's hard for me to recall. Like 10-minute intervals, I never time it. So I feel like half an hour might be okay. Like I can eat within half an hour, or half an hour to an hour and then over an hour. What is your most common reason? What are your most common reasons for eating breakfast? I mean, aren't the health benefits like also better mood? Like better focus, better mood. Aren't they like the same thing? Like these kinds of cognitive benefits. So these seem a bit too similar. Maintain body image. Isn't that like a health benefit as well? So maybe these are a bit too general. What about none of the above? If you do what? Okay, so maybe write this out. If you skip breakfast, what are your reasons? Okay. So tell us what the rating scale means, or the importance scale. Is 5 the most important, or 1 the least important? And am I comparing it to like lunch or dinner? Okay, so tell us what 1 means, tell us what 5 means. Are we comparing the importance of breakfast to anything else? My GPA. Are you sure you want to ask for 1 data point? Again, we're looking at intervals, right? And you see the intervals here are about half a point, but then there's a huge range over here, and then there's like no range over here. It's really 1 point. I mean, so you might want to rethink the intervals here. How long do you take to study every day? Okay. So these are half-hour intervals. So again, you may want to consider even intervals. This is 10 minutes. Then this is 20 minutes. Then this is 30 minutes. Then this is an hour. And then this can be anything. So I can see that you're increasing the interval of time with each choice. Maybe you want to have the same interval of time. You never know if your classmates can actually like recall the amount of time it takes to study. So again, tell us what 5 means or 1 means. How important are studies? Like, again, couldn't I just say 5? Because everything's important to me. Breakfast is important, studies are important. Do you want to have them compare something? Rank the following from the most important to the least important. Okay, I'm going to put free time. I'm going to put breakfast last. Do you think study time is lost? But couldn't you study and eat breakfast at the same time? I mean, don't people do that all the time? Like you go to a cha chan tang and people can multitask? What if they don't know? So maybe give them a choice they don't know. If eating breakfast would benefit your studies, would you start eating breakfast more often? Maybe. Again, I don't know. How is your ability to concentrate on morning classes when you have breakfast? No change. No change. I mean, to be fair, I don't know. So, how often do you feel tired or lethargic during morning classes? Never. How often do you feel hungry and distracted during morning classes? Never. How would you describe your overall participation? Very active. On a scale of 1 to 5, how... Oh, good. So you're defining the scale now. That's good. Now, I don't think this is the best choice, this rating scale, because what does a 4 mean? What does a 3? What does a 2? So I guess you have 2 poles: irritable, low, positive, energetic. So maybe a rating scale wouldn't be the best here, because this is not like a Likert scale, for example, where you're merely agreeing. You actually want to give people different choices. And maybe you want to describe different kinds of moods. And then you can have people select one or more than one mood. Right, so again, I don't think moods may be an appropriate dimension for this kind of ratings or this kind of scale. How often do you feel physical symptoms of hunger before lunch? So you have to define what lunch is. Lunch is a meal after 11:30. How likely do you give up breakfast for time to study? Well, I study and have breakfast at the same time. So that's a possibility. But I don't have a choice. Overall, do you think skipping breakfast affects your academic performance? Well, how about it depends or I don't know? Okay, so again, these are polarizing answers, and you may want to force people to answer. Or if you're going to give them a choice, you may give them a more nuanced choice. It depends. And then they may actually not know. I don't know. Now I'm forced to answer this, yet I don't actually know what 2, 3, 4 actually mean.